And the next day, I couldn't leave bed because my joints were so swollen. My lymph nodes, my whole chest, my arms, like I had to like roll out of bed.
Malin, how did you find Carnivore?
Hi, well, first of all, thank you for chatting to me. So first find Carnivore was the Petersons. And I then saw Michaela's interview on Joe Rogan and just heard her amazing story and also thought it was incredible. But that's not when I first started becoming carnivore, because at the time I was on immune suppressant drug that was working for me. But then I would say about 2 years later, I started getting symptoms back, and that's when I decided to give carnivore a go. It started back in 2017 when I was 25. In the beginning, I was just extremely fatigued. I don't know, I just didn't have the energy to do anything, and I wrecked my brain because I was healthy, I was young, I was exercising, I was eating a good, well-balanced diet. I wasn't eating fast food. I was trying to, why am I so tired? And I tried to kind of ignore it, and then eventually decided to go to the doctors. But at this point, I had a big rash on my leg. So kind of, it's called an urticaria rash, and it's flat and it kind of stands out. And it's extremely itchy and painful. So I thought, okay, right, I need to go to the doctors. I did, where they said, oh, it's just an allergy. But I couldn't think of anything I could be allergic to, and thought, okay, well, they referred me for an allergy test. This was back in April, and they said the earliest we have is end of September. So okay, they gave me, and then I thought, okay, I know. And then at this point, they gave me some steroids, which worked. They gave me a high dose of steroids for 6 days. Fine. The rash went away, which was great. But then it didn't go away for very long. It came back, and it came back really badly. And I think it started actually with, let me think. So it started with my left wrist just being in agony, and I couldn't move it. So I would go to work, come home from work, and then by the end of it, I couldn't move my right arm. And then that was followed with fever, and then I would get this rash, urticaria rash, all over my body. And I had no idea what was going on. And after that, I went to the doctors again, and they just kept saying, there's nothing we can do. You're just going to have to wait for your allergy test. So then I tried to wreck my brain. Why am I allergic to? Never had an allergy in my life. Changed my detergent, that kind of thing. Someone said, oh, I have a friend that was on the pill, and that gave her an allergic reaction. Come off the pill, didn't do anything. Then I went, I had then really, really bad episodes of fevers where it lasted for about 2 weeks, and it was 40 plus degree fevers, followed with this rash. And I went to the doctors again, and they said, and I was like, I need my allergy appointment to come sooner. Like I need help. And that doctor was actually really good. Just like, yes, that's all well and good, but let's send you to the dermatology department because they are actually the ones that are treating the rash. We thought, okay, great. Got an appointment pretty swiftly. They then done a skin biopsy on my leg. So they took a bit of skin where the rash was, sent that off, sent me for some blood tests. Didn't hear anything. Been going on for like those 2 weeks of fever and rash and joint pain. Went back to work. I was like, I feel very tired, but the fever is gone. Great. Went back the next day to work. The fever was back. So it was like 40 plus degree fevers. I then went into the hospital, and they were really good. They took me in straight away. They put me in a private room to see if I had any, disease that were going to cause infection to others. And they did lots of different tests. And once they established I'm not going to spread this, they put me in a different ward, a kind of ward where we don't know what to do with you. Did hundreds of different blood tests, Lyme disease, tested me for practically anything. They checked my heart, they checked my, chest, ultrasounds, you name it. They put me on antibiotics, and they basically said, we've done hundreds of blood tests, we don't know what it is. Gave me antibiotics, and then once the fever calmed down, they sent me home. And then at this point, I don't know if I had an allergic reaction, but my face was on fire too. So they gave me some steroid cream for my face. And then, sorry, I should have mentioned this before, but by the point I went into the hospital, they said, yeah, we had your results back from your, what was it called again? Lost my words. From your skin biopsy, and your inflammation is through the roof, but we don't know what it is. So in my head, why have you not contacted me telling me that my inflammation is through the roof? Anyway, they established that I had rheumatoid arthritis at the hospital, but I also had this really weird, rare skin rash. So then it was kind of back and forth. Do we put her under rheumatology care, or do we put her through dermatologic care? Anyway, they didn't decide. They sent me off back home again. And then the fever started being really, really bad again. So it would start with, I would have the rash all day, and it would be really, really painful. So it's big, red, raised rash called urticaria rash. And I can best describe it as a baby's scream. It's so painful and impossible to ignore. And it would then follow with fever. So I go to bed, freezing cold, shaking, shivering. And then I wake up a couple of hours later, just drenched in my own sweat. And it was the point I had to, sleep with a towel underneath me. My side of the bed was completely just yellow out of sweat stains. And then I wake up I didn't really sleep that well, but wake up the next day, and joints, especially my right wrist, my ankles, so swollen. The rash came back. So then it was just itchy all day. And then the evening came again. The fevers came back, and that was just going on for months. But then I called, weeks, and then I went back to my GP and was just desperate, like, I need help. And they were just like, dermatology has now referred you to rheumatology, but we don't really have an appointment for you. So I was just like, I need help. And she saw how stressed I was, the doctor, my local doctor. So she phoned them. I got an appointment with rheumatology. Went to rheumatology, and I remember you had to fill in this pre-questions on an iPad, what things you can and can't do. And it was something like, can you open a jar of jam? I couldn't because my joints were so sore, but I said yes, because for some reason I felt embarrassed. Like, how can I be 25, 26 and open a jam jar? Anyway, I had my appointment. They said, you got obviously inflammation in your body. We don't know exactly what it is, but we're gonna give you a medication called colchicine, which is treated if you have gout disease. So they gave me that, sent me home with colchicine, which made me feel worse. My fingers swell up so much I couldn't even dress myself. My fiance had to help me dress me because I just couldn't at this point. Phoned them back, said this is really not working for me. Came back in again, and they put me on a really high dose of steroids again, along with a medication called methotrexate, which is used for if you have an organ transplantation, you give patients methotrexate in order for your body to accept this new organ that didn't come from you. that didn't really work either, but it was only for a long time. And I think the steroids did work to start. No, sorry, I'm jumping the story. I'm so sorry. They didn't. They put me on cold. Sorry. So what they done, they put me on colchicine, the gout disease. That didn't work. So I came off that. Didn't work at all. Then they put me on steroids alone for a bit, but that was later because I was on colchicine, came off it. I was just treating my symptoms with any cream under the sun. Nothing worked. Antihistamine. I had this thing. It's called Lanacane. I think you get it from the US, and it's like a powder, almost like baking powder. I would just put that all on my body, hoping that would give some relief for my itch. And I had this one dress that was like really loose that I could wear that wouldn't touch my skin, because anything touching my skin was really painful. The sun would really flare it up. Any dripping of water, it's really, really painful. At this point, I wasn't working. I was sitting in my flat in London with the blinds down. Anyway, we were going away with my fiance's family to a family wedding in the US. And I was so drugged up on various medication that border control stopped me for a drug search, because my eyes were just pointing different directions and my face was just, I just was that unwell. I got checked for drugs entering the US. Anyway, I come back and had another appointment, and they decided to put me on methotrexate, which is used for treating chemo. So I was on that for a bit, which just made me feel really nauseous. I was already losing so much hair from the inflammation and being ill, but it made me lose even more hair. So they realized pretty quickly that that wasn't working. But then they kind of established that we think you got something called an autoinflammatory disease. But this is so rare and hard to establish which one, so we don't know which one it is. So we're just gonna have to try all this medication to see what might work for you. And at this point, I was desperate, but I also knew about a medication called anakinra, because my fiance's mom is very scientific, so she read a lot about it. She knew great success with anakinra. So I knew that was kind of the end goal for me, to try this super drug. But in order to even get the chance to try anakinra, because it's so expensive, you have to go through all these other medications before. So you have to be more or less like a lab rat before you get to try the medication.
You got to make sure all the cheaper ones don't work first before they'll put you on the expensive one.
Exactly. So methotrexate didn't work. I was on steroids, high dose of steroids again. But as soon as I lowered my steroids, my symptoms just went flaring back up again. So they thought, okay, we're going to try. This is when I started trying. Sorry, I got my medication written down because there's been so many. Methotrexate, which is the one you use if you have an organ transplantation, for your body to accept your new organ. So I used that, and that just, I don't know what it done, but it certainly didn't work. The steroids kept it slightly at bay, but this new medication was on. I tried it for quite a long time. My face got really, or maybe my face was puffy from the steroids anyway, but it gave me this black and red eyes, so I almost looked like a raccoon. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't actually think this is working for me. Then they gave me, we just need to up your dose. So they just upped my dose. So at this point, I was on a very high dose of steroids. I was on myclophenolate. I was on omeprazole, which is for your stomach, because steroids is so savage on your stomach. I had to be on omeprazole, and then calcium tablets in order for my bones, again, for the steroids. So that went on, and I tried the higher dose along with the steroids. And I had appointments at this point. I was under rheumatology care, so I did have follow-up appointments. But I was so vulnerable at this point that any appointment I went to, I couldn't speak. As if I would speak, I would just cry, because at this point I had completely lost myself. I couldn't explain to anyone why I was in so much pain, what was going on with me, because the doctors didn't even know what was wrong with me. So it was at that point when you thought, it'd be easy if I get like hit by a bus, not necessarily because I wanted to die, but I was so numb, and I thought, well, at least then I can explain why I'm in pain. Because right now, no one is understanding why I'm feeling this way, and my body's not working, and I just wanted to crawl out of my own body, and I felt very, very lost at this time. Anyway, I then called again saying, I don't think the steroids are working as well. As soon as I go down, my symptoms comes back, and the myclophenolate isn't working either. So then I thought, okay, we're going to put you on a third medication called hydroxychloroquine, which I don't even know what that medication was supposed to do at this point. But they did say, you have to be careful if you're on this medication for a long time, because it can mess with your eye vision.
It's starting to sound like they've just got a big bag of medicine, and every time you say this one's not working, they're just fishing around for a new one in the bag. You go, oh, let's give this a try.
I know. And you're so desperate, so you just go for it. But I was kind of getting fed up at this point. And I think, I'm trying to remember now, but yeah, I think I got ill in April 2017. In January 2018, that's when they established what illness it was. So that's when they said, we think they were confident it was an autoinflammatory disease, which no one have ever heard of. We heard about autoimmune diseases, but we haven't really heard about inflammatory diseases. So they think it's something called Still's disease, or something called Schnitzler's syndrome. So that's all we knew. And then what we know is that anakinra, which is an immune suppressant drug, is the best medication for it. So I wasn't on, going back to being on those 3 medication, I wasn't on hydroxychloroquine for very long because it gave me another itch. So it gave me another rash, like a completely different rash. Went back to the doctors. So I came off that. And then they started saying, you've been on steroids for a very long time. We need to try and come off it. I'm like, agreed. But every time I go down like half a pill or a pill, my symptoms comes back. But but you need to try. So I did, and then phoned them the next day. My symptoms are back. I get high fever. I get a rash all over my body. What do you want me to do? Oh, you need to go back up on your steroids again, if that's the case. So then I was like, I can. But then that went on back and forth for a while. And then I think I've been on steroids for about, let me think now, maybe 2.5 years or something. They stopped working. So the symptoms started coming back anyway. And at this point, I was pretty fed up. Called the doctors, had an appointment, and just said, I'm on all this medication. I'm feeling like this. You need to help me. Because it's just been back and forth. Try this medication. And I remember one time as well going to an appointment. It was kind of like a walk-in appointment, stroke come-in appointment. See if we can do something for you. I came in maybe 9 a.m. Started having fevers. So one of the nurses, they gave me some paracetamol. Just waiting there for hours. And I just remember this woman, and she was there with her husband, and she was a bit older, so was he. He was not in the best state. He was struggling to walk and whatnot. But as she was leaving, she just looked into my eyes, and she was like, look after yourself, dear. She could just tell how much pain and suffering I think I was going to. But I just looked at her, and I just couldn't say anything, because if I say something, I'm going to cry, and I don't want to cry. But yeah, I think that was the thing. You just when you are that ill for that long, you completely lose yourself. Like I looked at myself in the mirror for years, and I didn't recognize myself. I completely lost myself. I lost so much confidence, and even now, like you build it up after. But yeah. Anyway, I eventually got the phone call I've been waiting for, and that is that we're gonna give you anakinra. And that was a very one of the most happiest days of my life, I think, because I've been waiting for that phone call. So they gave me anakinra, and I started that in January 2019. And with anakinra, so what it is an immune suppressant injection that you have to take daily. But it's not like a diabetic pen where you just put it like in and out. It's actually a syringe. So I started doing that, and I thought, okay, this is great. I mean, I wasn't going to know the results straight away because I still had to like wear off the steroids, seeing as I've been them for so long. So I started taking that, and then within a few days, it gave me an allergic reaction. So the anakinra was giving me a reaction, yes, so an allergic reaction to the anakinra. So you take it daily. You take it. You can take it in your like legs or stomach. So I just had this like black and red marks all over my legs and stomach. But I can't remember how. But I was desperate because I was like, this was the medication for me. This is what's gonna help me. So I can't remember how I come across it, but I did some Googling and I came across like one girl that said that it's very normal to have this allergic reaction to anakinra, but it will go after about 2 months. So I thought, okay, gotta stick through it. Call my doctor saying, I'm having an allergic reaction. It's so painful. I can't go to work. And they thought, well, if you can't go to work, you need to stop the medication. I was like, no, that's normal. It's normal to get an allergic reaction, but it will pass. And they're like, okay, then just carry on. So I pushed through, which I'm glad I did because eventually I come off the steroids and the anakinra was working. But once the anakinra kicked in, I then got really, really bad psoriasis. Really, really, really bad scalp psoriasis. So it was just completely flaky and just bleeding in my scalp basically. And that was like the side effect of the anakinra. In the beginning, I didn't know it was psoriasis, so I went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, it might be fungus. Like, let's do a test." Okay, fungus. Didn't hear anything. Called them, but like, it's really, really bad. Is it fungus? Oh, sorry, we lost your test. Come in again and do another test. So I went back in again. I was like, "Is it?" And I just wondered, is there any chance it could be something else? Do I need antibiotics? So they did another test for fungus and like, yeah, just take some antibiotics just in case. Went home, but anakinra and antibiotics don't go hand in hand. So every time you take antibiotics, you need to come off anakinra because anakinra is so strong, it doesn't allow for the antibiotics to work. So I came off anakinra, and the next day I couldn't leave bed because my joints were so swollen. My lymph nodes, my whole chest, my arms, like I had to like roll out of bed because, and the fever and the rash was back, just like that. One day without it, everything came back. So I thought, right, back on the injections again. So I started the injections again. And then obviously at this point they realized it wasn't a scalp infection, it wasn't fungus, it was psoriasis. So that was fun. Anyway, the anakinra was working well for me. It was just that, I still had one thing with Still's disease or Schnitzel syndrome is that you get very like swollen lymph nodes. You get a sore throat, obviously rheumatoid arthritis, the rash and the fever. But the rash and the fever was gone, but I was struggling, with my breathing a bit. I was still struggling with some of my joints. I was struggling with just being a bit fatigued, I suppose. But I will say that anakinra 100% gave me my life back. I could start doing things again. I could start healing and living my life, and see the point again, I guess. So it was working, and I think it took about a year for it to like fully work for me. So it started working even more after a year, I would say. So my body was adjusting to it. I wasn't having allergic reactions to it. Where I was injecting started to like fade more and more every day I was taking it. So yeah, it was working. And then I think beginning of 2002, I started being itchy again out of nowhere. So I didn't have the rash back, but my left arm was itchy. I woke up in the middle of the night from just scratching my arm. I woke myself and my partner up from just scratching my arm like crazy. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do this again. Like, I've done it. Like, I can't. And I'm on anakinra. What else can I do? So that was quite stressful. So that was going on for a few months. And then my fiance said to me, he was like, I think we should give Carnivore a go. And in my head, it's like, no. At first, because you're thinking like it's everything. I believe it's like I heard my killer story. I think it's incredible, but it's everything, we've been told not to do our whole life, to just eat meat and not eat, vegetables. And I would say that probably 90% of my diet before Carnivore was probably fruit and vegetables, and it's been my whole life. I've always been eating meat, but God forbid eating fatty meats, But anyway, I gave it a go. And obviously in the beginning it's harder, but I'm stubborn, so I'm going to stick to it. My fiance did it with me, which made it a lot easier. I didn't really speak much about it either because I didn't really want people's opinions. And, and I think that's the thing, especially for young women. It's almost so taboo to eat meat. Like, why would you eat meat when you can eat spinach? And before that's what that's what I was eating. I was eating spinach salads every day. I was eating fruit and berries and you name it. It wasn't working for me, and I'm not here to say that it doesn't work for some people, but I think my point is the danger is that we are not allowing people to. Let's just put it this way. So, you hear the Netflix shows where they come out about being vegan and how it healed them and it's the only way to be and how meat kills you. And then people go on, you listen to podcasts and people who know nothing go on to say, well, we do know that red meat kills you. That's a fact. What's that going to do to young women? We're already in this hype of being a vegan, and I don't know, I just think it can be quite harmful. I'm not saying that this diet is going to work for everyone, and not everyone has been ill enough needing to go on this diet either. So that's not the point. I just think it can be quite dangerous path to scare people off meat, especially red meat. And yeah, I think so many people, including myself, are living proof of it, that meat will kill you. Anyway, back to the story. When I started being carnivore, it's a try and error in the beginning. And when I first started, I had, out of nowhere, an egg intolerance and a dairy intolerance. So I couldn't eat eggs, so that was hard. And then when I first started, I thought, okay, it was doing well. I'm missing the point. I started being carnivore in April 2022. In end of May, June that year, my rash was gone. I wasn't itchy anymore. That was completely gone again. So I thought, well, okay, it is working. I'm feeling lean. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling amazing. I'm not getting the pain as much as I usually do. Like I'm not feeling the joint pain, even though I was doing well on anakinra. I was still kind of waking up every morning very stiff and achy. I wasn't feeling that anymore. So I thought, okay, this is incredible. Maybe some people around me a bit skeptical about the way I was eating. And then I started alternating. So because of with anakinra, you having to take it. And I was told when I was put on anakinra, you most likely gonna have to take this medication for life. And your inflammation is so all over the place that it's gonna have to be daily. At this point, I didn't think too much of it. I was just relieved that I had a medication that worked. So so back to my carnivore start. I then started doing every other day of taking my injection. And the day I didn't take it, I could sort of get a little bit achy. Is the fever going to come back? Just didn't feel 100%. But at this point, I was also, which now is so stupid looking back at it, I was still having, because by all means, I'm not a perfect carnivore. I still drink coffee every day. I still drink wine. So I'm not here to preach that I'm a perfect carnivore. At this point, I was still having oat milk in my coffee, which now I think is the most, not the best decision. But I was on that oat milk trend before it was even a trend, thinking that that's the way to be and living. So still on oat milk. And I was doing this every other day with my injection. And it was sort of working, but I could feel a little bit. And then I managed to push to every third day, not being on my medication. I thought, this is incredible. You know, I can go away for a week and I don't have to bring my medication with me. Because with this medication as well, it needs to be cold at all times. So it's a bit of a faff to travel with. So I thought, okay, this is incredible. And then all of a sudden, I tried to introduce eggs again, and I could eat eggs, even though I've been allergic to them all of a sudden. I could eat eggs again, which was incredible. And I could drink milk again, which I've never been able to before. Not that I'm having heaps of milk, but just the fact that my body was now allowing me to have things that I was intolerant to. And then I think I stopped having around maybe around this time last year. Actually, I stopped having oat milk, which, again, now looking back, I don't know why I didn't stop sooner, and which is crazy. And then in end of May last year, I stopped taking medication, and then I didn't take it one day, didn't take the next, and then didn't take it the third day, and then so on. So since May last year, I haven't taken my medication, and I feel better than ever, which is crazy. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, still, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So
So those first few days when you didn't take it, and for day one, and then you were like, okay, so I can not take it day two, I'll see how I go. Day three, see how I go. Was that kind of like getting further and further away from the edge of the pool or something? It was like, that must have been this weird feeling at the time.
yeah, and it was so weird, and I was almost like, I almost did take it because I was like, I don't want it to beat me, I want to beat it. Like, I don't want it to come back. I was like, do I feel achy? Is the fever gonna come? No, you're fine. And I felt so happy. And but also I'm very private with my journey. Not many people know, because obviously at the time I lived in London. I moved to a new city. Not many people know that I've been ill or been through this. So I don't tell people that I was on this immune suppressant drug. And not many people know that, so it was like a secret for me. So then going to work, so happy I wasn't taking this injection, but no one had no idea. I think it's just because when you've been that ill, it's almost hard to make the story justice, or even explain what you've been through and that pain, and because you just can't, can you? And someone also said to me, like, do you actually enjoy eating just mince? And I'm like, you're missing the point. Like, I enjoy eating mince more than having 40-degree fever, a rash that makes me want to cut on my own body parts and joint pain. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll happily eat mince every day if it means I can get out of bed with no pain, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
Wow. So, what is a day like for you now as far as eating goes?
Yeah, so now I eat a lot of, so I eat twice a day. So I eat a lot of eggs and bacon, which works for me. So I will eat eggs and bacon for like lunch or breakfast. So that could be any time between 10 and 12, really. And then I will eat when I come home from work, just after 5. And I'll just eat. I do eat a lot of just mince because it's the most cost effective way of eating it. Obviously, eating a steak is tastier, but it's just a very cost-effective way of being a carnivore. So just 20% fat mince. Yeah, eat a lot of that.
And your partner's still doing this with you?
Yeah, so he does it most of the time. Sometimes he won't. He's not as strict as me, uh,
Mm.
but he does it most of the time. But even for him, if he has a slice of bread, he can tell straight away. He feels bloated. He doesn't feel well. He's not sleeping as well. So I think that's quite incredible as well. And I was saying to him the other day, because we'll watch your videos. I watch a lot of carnivore videos, and I said it feels like everyone is a carnivore. And then you go out in the real world, and you're like, no, that's not the case. But I think it's more incredible. It's just if I could help one single person, just one single person that's like been through this, and I always knew I wanted to, and I will say, like, and I cannot 100% give me my life back, and will never slate Anakinra if that's something someone needs to be on. But I just know that I don't want to be on Anakinra life, and all this medication I've been on as well is quite hard to be put on in your late 20s, because this all medication is so strong. They say to you, you can't get pregnant with these. You would have a miscarriage, or you would need an abortion. That's also quite hard to deal with. So yeah, I would do anything to not be on any medication. And I'm not against medication. We need medication in certain situations, but I just think it's a case of, you go to the doctor and something's wrong with you, and it's like, here's a pill for it. And okay, you might need that pill, but we also need to figure out what's wrong with you and to fix the problem in the long run, not just taking a pill to solve everything. And yeah, I think as well, like I mentioned before, especially for young women, it's just very pushed to be a vegan, which is fine if it works for you. But I think we also need to allow space for women to eat meat if that's going to heal them and make them healthy.
I think that's a really good point, because you kind of get pigeonholed into like this is the way you need to eat, that's the way you
Yeah,
need to eat, and there's no room or discussion about, well, okay, so people have reactions to things. Maybe you should test what you're eating.
yeah. And I think that as well. I think now when I've been, because now I don't even think, what do I miss eating, or what. Like in the beginning, it was hard because you do think, oh my God, is this going to be forever? I'm never going to be able to eat this or that. Like I don't even think like that anymore, which I understand people do when you first start your carnivore journey. Like I get that, uh, but I don't even think like that anymore. I think it's more the way we look at things, what's healthy and what not healthy is so dangerous. It's like, oh, we don't cook our food with olive oil, we cook it with rapeseed oil. yeah, because rapeseed oil is cheaper. And I think it's just our mindset of looking at foods can be quite damaging. And yeah, you know, if I, like I said, when I was the most ill, I just wanted someone to talk to or someone to relate to what was going through and that could help me. But you do feel very, very alone when you go through these rare diseases.
So, and on that point, it must feel very freeing to not be reliant on going to doctors who couldn't give you answers anyway.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you had to visit a doctor?
Uh, you know what? I can't even remember now. But I remember even when I was on, yeah, even when I was on anakinra, I get ill. I had to go to hospital every time, and they had to do, I've had so many CT scans on my womb. I have had so many different ultrasounds and X-rays and whatnot, and constantly getting checked up. But at one point, they thought I might develop Crohn's disease along with my Still's disease. And I regularly have to take blood tests. And it's actually funny because I had my blood results back the other week, and it's the first time everything is fine. All my levels, everything is normal, and that's the first time. Because that's the thing with anakinra as well. It's quite damaging to your liver. My liver is completely fine again, which is yeah. So yeah,
Uh, you know, it's like looking at those dates. This started in 2017.
yeah.
Uh, you know, you should definitely be commended for going through that and sticking with it, and like you sorted it out. The doctors didn't.
I know. I still, you know what? I don't. I haven't even told my doctors about this. They don't actually know that I come off, which I probably should tell them at some point because I keep having my injections delivered to me. But I haven't even told them because at this point, and I'm not slagging all doctors here, but I just don't have. I lost the trust, um, and I'm not saying it's that fault. It's just the way the society kind of works now. But I haven't even told them I stopped my medication. And I might have been because when I started like the carnivore journey as well, I was hesitant. Like I said, like my whole life was I'm from Sweden. Swedish people are very health conscious as such and eat a lot of greens and vegetables and meat too, but it needs to be balanced. So I was very hesitant, especially eating so much greens in my life. But I now know that like I'm a living proof that it works. Like when I first started coming off anakin and another day, another week, another month, I was like, I feel like a superhero here. Like I've beaten a uncurable disease by following a diet. But that's why I'm so grateful for the people like yourself are talking about it and sharing it because I always knew that I wanted to talk about it, but I never knew how and, have the confidence to talk about it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Congratulations. It's just such a great story. I'm so happy that after going through so much, you're able to kind of get around, go to work, do everything normally. Like, yeah,
But
it's
that's just it.
great.
Just having your life back. People think it's you being restricted living a carnivore diet. I tell you not. That's not being restricted. This was. I was just stuck in my own body, and I got my life back. At the age of 25, 26, I felt so old. I felt like because it's also physically and mentally being that ill does age you. Um, and I'm 32 now, and I feel younger than I did then, which is incredible.
So, given that, what are your plans going forward? You've got this new lease on life.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do?
Oh, God, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's the thing as well. Being, that ill a time of my life, you just see your friends progressing in their careers, going on amazing holidays, and I'm just stuck in my own body. And it made me, eventually makes you a bit bitter and be like, why can that not be me? And you kind of resent life a bit. And I think that's the main thing about Carnivore, is giving me my life back. It wasn't a day I didn't think about my illness because I had to inject myself every day. Now I don't have to think about it. I could just, live my life again. So yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So Marlon, if people want to reach out to you, do you have social media at all?
I do, and I'm more than happy for people to reach out to me. And my social media is also uh, very private right now. And if you look through my social media, you would have no idea that I've been through this, because I'm pretty good at masking it. And if you saw a picture of me before, uh, you probably wouldn't think it's the same person, because I was that looking horrible ill. But yeah, I'll be more than happy for people to reach out to me.
Okay, so I'll get those details from you, and I'll put those in the description when I
Thank
put
you.
the video up. So, Marlon, thank you so much for coming on and sharing such a wonderful story. I'm very happy to hear the news, and yeah, thanks for sharing your journey.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.